Or is it really him?
Dore, I'm sorry. Maybe Dore. I should. What would you like to call you, Mr. Dore? Jimmy?
Jimmy's fine.
I don't know why I'm calling you Dore. That's very disrespectful. But I'm just wondering, what your take on the whole Alex Jones ban from YouTube and Twitter and I believe the Facebook. What's your take on that?
I again went against the grain and was against it. Mm-hmm. And I talked about the slippery slope, and I said, if you don't defend speech, you find repulsive. You don't believe in free speech. And I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Every year, the Nazis would petition to march in Skokie, which is a Jewish suburb, and we all understood that that's how it works. And that if the First Amendment applies, it applies to the people you hate too. Otherwise, it's not popular speech that needs protection and all that stuff. And I tried to warn everybody on the left that if they can do this to him in the dark, I'm not saying you can't ban somebody but you have to have a transparent process that's objective and there's a standard involved, and you have an objective arbiter, judge. And someone needs to be able to see the evidence against them, and you have to be able to confront the evidence. Otherwise, you're just taking away people's free speech, and that could be done to anybody, which it, by the way, fucking immediately was. 800 Facebook pages taken down, a lot of them very reputable news organizations that were cop watch places. And what do they need? So what do we need right now? We need a real revolution, because it ain't going to happen through voting in the United States. It's not happening. And so if you're going to watch it, you're going to have to get a real revolution. Right now in France, a country a little bit bigger than Texas, they had 2,000 simultaneous protests inside France today. 2,000. If you look at a map of France, the whole thing looks lit up with protests. And that's what we're going to have in the United States if we ever want to get a healthcare system that functions, if we ever want to end these fucking wars, and if we ever want to have a living wage. That's what we're going to have to do, because it's not coming through the ballot box. We live in an oligarchy. Everybody fucking knows it, and everybody pretends the problem in America is Susan Sarandon and Jill Stein, because everybody's a fucking adult child of an alcoholic in the United States.
Jesus,
yes,
lot to respond to there.
Go ahead.
So you basically think I recently I believe you said that we need to start a third party. Do you really think that that's a very feasible way of?
It's feasible in so many other countries. Why isn't it feasible here?
Well, I'm talking about feasibility in terms of actually like making a dent in getting to the presidency.
I feel like the argument that just because a third party can't win immediately, that you just gloss over the fact that if people are willing to support a third party candidate long enough, we could get them to the point where they would be winning.
Sure, I'm not against voting third party when you're in a state that is clearly going to go one way or the other. But I just feel like I don't know. I guess I'm more about pragmatism. That Jimmy, I think
how's that pragmatism worked out for you?
How has it worked out for me? I mean, if people had actually acted pragmatically, we wouldn't have the two fucking awful Supreme Court justices that we have. We wouldn't have the possible DACA ban. We wouldn't have a whole shitload of things that we do now. Now we would by no means have a prize on our hands. I'm with you that Hillary Clinton was not fucking great by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of a difference between or a chasm between our thoughts on this topic. I respect what you have to say.
Let Jimmy respond to your Hillary statement.
Yeah, go for it.
I will just say that 40 years of neoliberalism is what got you Donald Trump. 40 years of voting for the lesser of two evils have got you Donald Trump. 40 years of taking it is what got you Donald Trump and got you Hillary Clinton as the nominee. They cheated Bernie Sanders, the biggest electoral fraud in the history of the United States. It's not even talked about. And there's been no reforms put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. We have no electoral integrity in this country, and the Democrats don't give a fuck about it. They don't even scream about it. Why? Because they use it themselves. 200,000 voters got kicked off the rolls of New York. They admitted they did it illegally, and nobody did not only to go to prison, they didn't even get charged. There wasn't even a court proceeding, because then they would be out in open court and people can read it. They did it all secret behind closed doors, and those are all fucking Democrats. So all I'm saying is voting for the lesser of two evil is what got you Donald Trump. The Democratic Party is incapable of reform. They're a party of white suburban liberals or Republicans, and that's who they're going for. You know, if you look at the Democrats successfully primaried 2 corporate Democrats in this last election. After Bernie, after he said we needed a revolution, 2 corporate Democrats have been primaried. That's it. We're going to go fight Donald Trump in 2020 with Nancy Pelosi as an albatross. You know, Trump just endorsed her, by the way, and Schumer. And Chuck Schumer. And so all I'm saying is doing the same thing over and over, and expecting a different result. A lot of people call that grown up. I think that's the definition of insanity.
I see what you're saying to a certain degree, but first of all, we had Bernie, we had people like Elizabeth Warren who kind of were very popular at the time, and I think people underestimate the certain things that could have been done if Hillary Clinton had won, to kind of bring her slightly more to the left than even Barack Obama was over the course of his presidency. And I don't know. I mean,
you don't know. I think you're kind of stuck here, Vadim.
The lesser of two evils is the lesser of two evils.
No.
I mean, you've heard what Chomsky had to say about it, right?
So what I feel, a lot of people who make this argument, I think, don't understand just how bad Barack Obama was. And that's why you got Trump. And it's not the people who vote for the Green Party. Half the country doesn't vote, for F's sake. And why do you think that is? You know, after the 2016 election, the New York Times went to barbershops in Milwaukee and asked those people who voted twice for Barack Obama why they didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. There's your problem. Your problem is that Barack Obama became president, those people voted for him, and their lives got worse. Their lives didn't get better. What happens when you have a supermajority in the House and it's Democrat and a Democratic president? You get a right-wing healthcare plan. You got the banks made bigger. He took us from 2 wars to 7, and he opened the Arctic to drilling whatever shell oil asked them. That's why you got Donald Trump, because the Democratic Party is more corrupt than you could ever imagine.
Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Vadim, your response?
When he came to office and he promised hope and change, he didn't.
I agree. I mean, like when Dore.
In fact, Barack Obama admitted that his policies would be considered moderate Republican if it was 1984. So when you have a guy who everyone thinks is a leftist and he governs like a right-winger, and then why do you think we got Trump? Because they're desperate for somebody to fucking address their problems.
I just fucking think that the prospect of, I mean, we're in a situation right now where states are going to lose the ability to, certain states are going to lose at the very least, are going to lose the ability to have abortions. There's going to be women who are literally going to die giving themselves botched abortions. You're going to have women, probably in some states, who will survive abortions and then be put on trial for having had them. And it's things like that. I mean, there's a whole list of things that I could list that kind of fit under, we would not have had that with the other choice. And so I'm with you when you say that Obama was a lot worse than most people think. I am with you on that. Like I am totally.
So how did the Democratic Party convince you that you need it to get the right people elected then?
I don't totally understand that question. I mean, I think that there are certain Democrats that are objectively better than others, at least in terms of the metric that I use. We had some better Democrats come about in the midterms. I think that it was not as much of a wave as we wanted, but it actually was a blue wave. Like some people are denying that, but it actually was. And I don't know. I think it's better to kind of work with.
I mean, what is really a blue wave? I mean, isn't that just subjective bullshit? Like a blue wave and whether really, it is or isn't.
When you look at what was realistically possible, the states that the positions that were up for that were realistically gettable, and the gains that we made. It's pretty good. Like at first, when I first saw the results, I did not think that it was a blue wave.
This was the blue wave. Hi, we're still here, Daddy Trump. Hi.
No, there was
the blue wave is bring back Nancy Pelosi, right?
There was more of a pickup in the Congress than we've had in decades.
Was Nancy Pelosi riding a surfboard on top of the blue wave back to the Speaker of the House?
All right. You object to the term, fine. I'm not saying that.
Fuck the term, dude. I want to go back to this revolution talk. Why are we talking about politics? It's fucked. Let's bring this revolution about. What are we gonna do about it? Hillary said, "Pokemon go to the polls." Fuck the polls. Pokemon go to the street. Vadim, I'm designing an app right now. It's turn-based gaming for a revolution. Tells all these stupid fucking people, download the app turn by step by step, takes them into the streets. We're going to be lit up like France tomorrow. Vadim, download my app. It's called fuckamerica.com. Get it.
Okay, well, there's not much to say after that. Let's move on.
No, man. I want to plan this revolution. I'm pumped. Jimmy got me pumped.
I certainly, let me just, I certainly understand the sentiment of the lesser of two evil voting, but I don't begrudge anyone who voted for Hillary Clinton. I understand why people did that. I understand. I'm just saying that if Hillary Clinton became president, things were still going to be horribly shitty. And the reason why is because you didn't get a good, both parties just gave Trump $200 billion extra to go fight for what? The same people who said free college was a pony then turned around and voted for $80 billion extra to give to Trump. So who's the guy who wrote? It doesn't matter. There's a famous quote I like, and it said, the problem with the voting of the lesser of two evils is that the parties could set it up that way, and it certainly seems like that. And it's a big club, and you ain't in it. And we all know that that Bill Clinton gave advice to Donald Trump, that Hillary Clinton elevated Donald Trump, had her minions in the press elevate Donald Trump so that he would be the nominee, and she couldn't win. And by the way, it's funny when I see people, they don't have outrage at that, or they don't have outrage that the DNC cheated the guy who could have wiped the floor with Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders.
I have plenty of outrage at that. I mean,
I never hear it.
I agree with you that reforms should be made, because the fact of the matter is a lot of people think that what was done was illegal, and arguably it should have been illegal, but it was legal and in my opinion highly unethical. I'm sure you agree with that, Dore. So
it's laughable that a party called the Democratic Party would be so against democracy,
Well, sure. I mean, the Republicans are as well. Let's not
Did Republicans have super delegates?
I mean, they're against super recounts. They're against they're pro voter suppression. I mean, there's just they're not saints here. They're far worse in this regard. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, also healthcare is another issue. I mean, they put kind of the death knell on that with the taking out the mandate with the tax increases that they imposed, and I rely on it. Some people call it shitty. I don't pay that much, and I have anti-seizure medication that is very expensive that I wouldn't be able to really afford very well otherwise. I'm probably going to lose that because of this precedent. So it's just there's a whole laundry list of things that I can name that
And so I just think that you make the miscalculation that the reason we got here has to do with people with no money and no power instead of people with all the money and all the power. And that's why we're here. We're not here because of Jill Stein. We're not here because of Susan Sarandon or Jimmy Dore. We're here because of the patently corrupted misappropriation of the Democratic Party. And they're turning this is what happens when both parties turn their back on workers. They're going to go to a right-wing demagogue. Your problem isn't with third-party voters. Your problem is with half the country who doesn't think it matters if they vote, because it fucking doesn't. 64% of Latinos on this 2018 midterms said that they didn't know what the Democratic Party stood for, and you're going to be mad at fucking people with no money and no power.
Well, Jimmy, I'm not mad at people who voted third party in the last election, because I know the numbers, and I know that if they had voted for Hillary, it would not have swayed it in her favor. I know that. So to me, there's no reason. But in the future election, if we were to get some third party that really was I don't know, that let's say Bernie was running on the Democratic ticket and this third party that you want there to be out there is running as well. Well, then Bernie's going to lose. And don't you want Bernie to win? I mean, weren't you pro Bernie? I'm
very pro Bernie. I'm pro Bernie's policies.
Yeah.
So I'm very pro Bernie's policies. And at that point, that would be not a Faustian bargain. That would be, well, I could vote for someone great or someone great. I'll go with the guy who's great who can win. Instead of, someone who's going to punch me with two hands or someone who's going to punch me with one hand. Hillary Clinton would have probably won Michigan if they didn't pass the 1996 crime bill, which put half of those motherfuckers in prison. And they know that she did that. They also know that that TPP was being pushed at the same time. They were by Barack Obama at the top of his lungs. At the same time, Hillary wanted those people in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania to vote for her. Well, they knew what NAFTA did for them. And here comes Trump saying, by the way, attacking Hillary from the left. He was out from the left of her on health care. He said he was going to give everybody health care. He didn't mean it. At least he fucking said it. And he attacked her from the left on trade. He did repeal the TPP or kill it. And
yeah, but we're getting it again. We're getting that. He said that he's fine with doing it again. He's basically just going to tweak a few provisions, and we're going to get the same bullshit.
Right, but the point isn't how good or bad Trump is or what he does. The point is that the Democrats failed to be Democrats, which is why we got Trump. And so the point of my show is to focus people on the causes of where we are right now. And the causes of where we are right now is that we have two parties bought by the same people, which is why even though 9 out of 10 Democrats want Medicare for all, and now even a majority of Republicans, the Democrats still won't even let it leave their lips, meaning Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. 9 out of 10 Democrats. So that's just corruption, because they don't represent you. They represent their donors and the oligarchs. And I'm not kidding when I say we need a real revolution. If you look at a map of France today, 2,000 protests at the same time, and they have health care. And we don't, in the richest country in the world. And that should be that is a shame. And it should be a pox on our whole goddamn country. And we all going to have to rise up. It's not going to happen through electoral politics. You have to sit there right now hanging on by your fingertips just so you can get treatment in the richest country in the fucking world. And Nancy Pelosi isn't screaming for Medicare for all. Fuck that party.
Yeah, wow. I think a lot of people in the chat seem to think that I disagree with Jimmy more than I do. I agree with
Vadim,
just about everything. What
would you
want to move on?
Well, no, I was just going to ask you a question. So, in 2 years, would you vote for Hillary again for president?
If Hillary was the one, if I was voting in fucking LA where Jimmy is, I would vote third party because
it matters where you live?
Yeah, it does matter where you live. I was voting in a swing state. So there was no way that I was going to vote for Jill Stein.
I know people who
voted in New York. I would have voted Jill Stein.
I know people,
even though I'm not totally crazy about her. She's got some things that are a little wacky.
But I know people who lived in a primarily blue area and they voted for Trump because they thought it was funny and they hate Trump. So you.
I'm not for like troll voting. I think that's just throwing your fucking vote away.
I mean, what's the vote worth?
Because he mentioned I live in Los Angeles and I get to vote in California, which is very true. But I like to use this as an example of. And by the way, let me just say, we do agree on policy. We just disagree on tactics. So I think you're right. People think we disagree more than we actually do. We just have a disagreement on tactics. But I just want to tell you about voting in California. We have a supermajority Democrats in California with a governor who's Jerry Brown, who's a Democrat, who when I was growing up, everyone said he was so left, he was a hippie freak. And now he's been our governor for, 2-3 terms. Anyway, so we have supermajority Democrats. Jerry Brown is governor in the 5th largest economy in the world, and we don't have Medicare for all, and we don't have free college, and we don't have a living wage, and we don't have a housing policy. We have a housing crisis, people sleeping under bridges in Los Angeles, every goddamn bridge. And so that's in a state with a supermajority Democrats. So this idea that Democrats are going to get you Medicare for all is a pipe dream, and the idea that Democrats are going to end the wars is a pipe dream, that the Democrats will ever fucking reign in Wall Street. They're going to crash our economy again. And who's going to be hurt again? You, me, not fucking them. So the Democrats are not your savior on climate change. Hillary Clinton wanted to export fracking to the world. Barack Obama said all of the above was his strategy. We pumped out more oil from the earth during Obama's administration than the entire history of our country. And he opened up the Arctic to drilling whenever Shell Oil asked him. So I'm just telling you, the Democrats are not our savior. And
yeah, but it's sort of like, do you want to take two, like a few steps forward or 20 steps back, which is exactly what we're doing with Trump and the environment.
Let's sidestep revolution.
I mean, there's so many regulations that the dude has cut. The Clean Air Act. I mean, there's going to be 12 times the amount of what is it? Not CO2. Just shitty emissions that are being spewed out over the course of the next 10 years as a result of repealing that. I mean, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. Look, I know it wasn't enough.
Sure, but how did we get here? How did we get here, though? That's the key. That's the key.
That's the key. And
But like you're thinking, like, exclude the idea that maybe we could have made more progress over the course of not just those 4 years, but years later, and I don't think that's like, I don't believe in like tearing it all down in order to build it all back up.
Just as Jimmy mentioned, it is in LA. In Seattle, it's the same. We have Democrats in charge. And we have people living in cities made of tents everywhere here, under overpasses and everywhere you can imagine. Anywhere there's empty space.
And it costs so much money to give them like medical care the city's paying for. We can just put them in houses.
The Amazons and the Boeings and Starbucks and all the huge corporations, Microsoft,
Wizards of the Coast.
They raise all the people living here. They've raised the cost of housing here with their average wages, and now people are living in tents everywhere.
And these are, by the way, these are problems that are all solvable. Like homelessness, it would cost $20 billion a year to end homelessness. They just gave the Pentagon $80 billion more a year. They didn't even fucking ask for. So these are problems are very fixable, and everyone pretends like we can't. Jeff Bezos can end homelessness, and he can end world hunger. It would cost $32 billion to end world hunger. Jeff Bezos could do that, and he could still be the richest guy in the history of the world, and he won't do it. And by the way, they passed a tax in Seattle to give $68 million or $38 million to the homeless people, and Amazon said no way. And they came in because those politicians are bought. And so I'm not kidding. We need a real revolution. I know that might sound great, but that's what has to happen. And if we don't, right now you're hanging on for your health care. 30 million Americans don't have health care. How do you convince them to vote for the status quo? You can't convince people to vote for the status quo when their lives already suck, which is why half the country won't vote. Your life doesn't suck so much because you still have health care right now. So you got a reason to vote for Democrats. Half the country doesn't. And when they passed Obamacare, what people don't realize is that did not give poor people access to fucking healthcare.
I would have a reason to vote the same way that I did, whether or not my medical issues are what they are. I mean, just the abortion issue alone, the SCOTUS judges alone is a huge thing. But there's so many other things that I can mention. I do want to ask you one more question before we move on. I feel like we probably should. But have you given up on the Justice Democrats? Is that kind of like where you're at right now?
No, I support progressive politicians no matter where they are. And I hope that the Justice Democrats can make a big dent and hopefully move Nancy Pelosi to the left. And who knows? I don't think it's happening, but I root for them. And I don't try to shit on anybody who's trying to make a dent progressively inside the Democratic Party or outside or in a third party. I'm for anybody who's for a Green New Deal.
Okay, cool.
And Jimmy, do you have anyone in mind that you would support in the next presidential election?
Yeah.
I would definitely support Bernie Sanders. I mean, he seems to, look what he got done even not being elected. So this is what I'm talking about. He got Amazon to give people a $15 raise. He got Disney to do the same thing. And this is the kind of stuff, like electoral politics are important, but I think it's even more important to maybe organize union workers at all the Walmarts in California. Like that would have a big, look what the teachers did in Arizona. In red states, they did that. And by the way, they did that against the advice of the fucking Democrats. And they did that against the advice of the teachers union. They said, fuck you, we're not taking this. And they stood up and they won. And that's what scares the oligarchs, is when people come together, stand up and win. That's what scares the shit out of them. And the thing that kills me is like, look what happened in Wisconsin, right? So you got that maniac Scott Walker shitting and killing everybody and taking the union away from teachers. And Barack Obama, not only did he not put on the soft shoe, he wouldn't even mention it. And so you wonder why people in Wisconsin didn't vote for Democrats. I mean, the reason is the party has left you. The party is not your friend. The party will keep you from Medicare for all. They're not going to try to get it for you.
I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. Just the idea that we're going to create a third party and take the presidency. No. It just seems like a fucking pie in the sky.
Revolution. Fuck party. Revolution.
It just does not seem realistic. And I'm someone who, like I was a Bernie guy. I'm all for like Alexia Cortez and the Justice Democrats and shit.
Anyone from any other country except for like
the policies that the Jimmy is. I just think that the pathway to those things is a little different.
You really don't think? Why isn't a third party realistic when it works in so many other places? I mean,
when has it worked in America? Like it just hasn't.
It's because the government's easier to control when you have less shit getting in the way.
The only thing that a third party is going to do, unless you have some like weird ass third party that sucks, that has like somebody who's really like left wing and really right wing, and just that's like a shitty ticket. Then you're going to split the votes of the whatever Democrat is running and the third party, and Trump will win, and it's a recipe for
Trump's going to win anyways.
So if there was what I tried to tell people is when Hillary cheated Bernie and the Democratic Party and the oligarchs cheated the progressives, because let's remember their first order of business is not to defeat the Republicans, but to first defeat the party of the working man, which is the progressives, and then maybe we'll beat the Republicans, which is exactly what they did last time. And when Hillary cheated Bernie and she got the nomination, she didn't reach out to progressives. She didn't say, Bernie, come be my vice president, or Elizabeth Warren, or Sherrod Brown.
Yeah, she picked a fucking loser. I agree with you.
To the right of her, she went after Republican votes, and again, this is the problem. The Democrats have become the Republican Party. We need a party that represents people, and you don't have to win. If there was a party that was a progressive party that was polling, say, at 5 or 10%, the Democrats could no longer fucking give them the finger. They would have to then have a coalition government, or maybe come to some kind of agreement. Instead of what happens all the time is they fucking flip us off, and then they go to the right, and then we're still left voting for a shittier candidate in 4 more years.
Do you think that, I think that we have some, like, besides Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, I think we have a few other people on the ticket, not on the ticket officially, but people who would probably be running that are pretty progressive, and like that Yang guy who recently announced that he's going to be running, Richard Ojeda, like that guy. I mean, they have no chance, in my opinion, of actually like winning the primary, but they might be good vice presidential picks. And they're
you just naming
really
a bunch of people that hardly anybody like. I don't know who that person
yeah, but
is.
if you see these people, like Richard Ojeda is a fucking like a firebrand. Like that guy can like really like talk tough. And he not only is he like a fighter, but he also like really appeals. Like he's an ex-Marine. He's someone who would really appeal to people in the Rust Belt and stuff like that. And he has a very progressive agenda, you know. So if we teamed him with somebody like Bernie or somebody like Elizabeth Warren, we might have a good Democratic ticket. You know, I agree with you. There's a very good chance that we might get, I don't know, just another loser. We might even get Hillary Clinton again, and that would suck. But
can I tell you what will happen if Bernie Sanders becomes president and he does it with someone who's actually progressive as his vice president? What will happen, and you will see this happen like that, is there will be a third party, but it will be the corporate Democrats starting the third party. That is what will happen. There's no doubt if Bernie somehow manages, they're going to cheat him again. They're doing it right now. They have a rule that Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, gets to decide if you're a Democrat in good standing or not. And that was put in specifically to scare the shit out of Bernie Sanders so he doesn't primary any Democrats, which he fucking isn't. So that's got to done. So even if he becomes president, you're going to see a third party, but it's going to be the money party. And that's what's tough about starting a third party is getting money if you don't take corporate cash, right? That's the real problem. And so we could have did it with someone like Bernie. You need a charismatic leader who can pull people from the party. So that didn't happen, and I don't think it will happen. But what I will guarantee you, if Bernie does win and become president, there will be three parties, and that third party is going to be the wealthy party of all the fucking corporate donors, and that's who you're going to have to run against.
Yeah, Billy, anything to add? Revolution.
I'm fuck this politics shit. Like I want the revolution now. Jimmy said it. Let's start this revolution. Let's go around the
But
poll.
I think you're thinking that we're going to be marching.
Fuck marching.
Into battle.
I want to turn it into a video game so the kids get in on it. I just like honestly like the politics is such a fucking bullshit pendulum. It swings back and forth a couple fucking inches. So arguing over back and forth, it just keeps inching its way closer to fucking something it wasn't when I was a kid. So I want the revolution.
And I'm sympathetic. I know you're. It's kind of a 3-on-1 situation here. It's usually the other way, and I'm usually the one because just like you said, CNN is full of shit. And right now, what's the narrative in the establishment is that somehow the right wing is the only people who hate CNN. But I remember back in 2016 at a Bernie rally here in Santa Monica, the whole room was chanting CNN sucks. So the left and the right know CNN is full of shit. And this guy Brian Stelter was just on a panel with Ted Koppel, and Ted Koppel was giving him a hard time for saying that you're the ones who propped up Trump, and now you love him because he's giving you ratings. Your ratings are through the roof since Trump. And he looked at Ted Koppel with a straight face and said, ratings don't matter. If my ratings went down 40%, it wouldn't matter. And the entire room laughed in his fucking face. Because if they really gave a shit about press freedom, they would have been screaming when Barack Obama was using the Espionage Act to prosecute whistleblowers and journalists. He didn't only use it once, twice, or 3 times. He used it more times than all the presidents in the history of our country combined to prosecute whistleblowers. And nobody said a fucking word. And right now, they are now torturing and trying to imprison a whistleblower, Julian Assange, who is a truth teller, who is an award-winning journalist. And so that's how you know Jim Acosta knows how to play this scene. He's playing the country. The CNN is playing us. The establishment is playing us, just like when they gave us Trump. They propped him up, and now they pretend to hate him, even though he's doing their bidding. I'll say one more thing about this is that it is amazing how Trump will breathlessly lie. It is kind of something. He's taking it to a new level. But it is interesting how the entire establishment press pretends that lying started in January 2017. That is just amazing. By the way, Joe Biden just gave an award to a war criminal the other day. So ranked choice voting is you have to have a majority of the 51%, to win, right? You can't have a plurality like Paula Page. So what they do is, let's say there's 4 candidates. Everybody gets 25. This one gets 50%. This one gets 40. This one gets. So you take the lowest one, you throw out their votes. And then the people who chose their second, the people who voted for that person, who was their second choice? So you get to number. Well, Jill Stein is my first choice. Hillary Clinton's my second. Gary Johnson's my third, and Trump would be my fourth. So if Jill Stein doesn't win, you throw her out, you take her votes, and you give them to their second choice. And then if someone doesn't have 51%, you throw out the bottom one again until you get someone with 51%. And so that way, people don't have to worry about a spoiler vote or wasting their vote. They get to vote for who the fuck they want to. And if the person they wanted the most didn't win, their second choice, their vote goes to their second choice. And so that's what we should have. It's very telling that the Democrats aren't pushing for it, especially after what happened and they lost to Trump. It's very telling that they're not pushing to end the Electoral College. These are very telling. Their donors don't want these things. That's why they don't push for them.
I'm into this revolution thing. You got me lit right now. I'm gonna figure out how to take over the kids and make them fight.
All right, good luck.